And welcome to another edition of It's Talladega. In case you're watching for the first time, this program is designed with to talk about all the good things that's going on in Talladega, the city that's open for business. We've had doctors and lawyers and politicians and every kind of individual, I guess you could say, on our program in the past. I don't think we've had a distinguished guest like we have today. I'm very impressed. We have a man called Tom Lutchendorf. I've just sat here and figured this thing out. The T is silent. Would that be a fair assessment? Mm-hmm. Mr. Tom Lutchendorf is a retired colonel?
Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel. And we're going to be talking about Tom and where he came from, how he wound up in Talladega. I'm always curious how folks find Talladega. We're always proud to have folks come to our city, but I'm always interested in knowing how they hear about us and how they wind up. Tom, welcome.
Larry, glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. Tom grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. That's pretty far a piece from Talladega.
Sure is.
You graduated from Penn State in 1966 in 3 years. Mm-hmm. That's quite an accomplishment. What was it, a four-year course? Or
yeah, four-year course, and I just able to get it done in 3 years.
That's
saved a little bit of money.
I know. It took me. I've been going to school 20 years and still trying to get through. Worked as a bus boy during the school and paid for his education within 2 years of graduation. ROTC program at Penn State for 3 years. I'm always amazed at folks in the military. I'm very fascinated with the military. I served 6 years, but never as an officer. I was a peon. Buck naked, went in, came out buck, maybe 5, whatever. But he was commissioned. Tom was commissioned as infantry school second lieutenant through ROTC. Served in Vietnam, Korea, Germany, Fort Benning, McClellan, Jackson, and other places. Retired as lieutenant colonel after 24 years, 10 months of active service. Was airborne and ranger. I've always wondered. You look at a person and they look intelligent, and you ask them why they would jump out of a good running plane. The plane just, running good. And they jump out of it, If it was on fire, I could understand it, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Served as deputy commander of the Mountain Ranger Camp and senior instructor for 2 years. Did you eat worms and alligators and all that?
Just live chickens, that's all.
Just live chicken. Okay. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Air Medal, 2 Meritorious Medals, and 2 Army Commendation Medals. And that's what I said, folks. It's an honor to have a person of this caliber. We've never had a person with all these awards and served our country so that we would have freedom. Say what we want to without being, almost before you get shot at. I'm not sure our freedom is not waning pretty good. But spent 23 years as North American sales manager with Tapecraft in Oxford, one of the few remaining successful textile companies in the area. Served on the American Heart Association, Talladega Airport Board, and Talladega Heritage Committee. Been married to Miss Nancy Ledbetter Lutchendorf for 46 years, and her father was retired from the Army after 32 years of service. They have one daughter, Jana Lutchendorf Hadley, 2 grandsons. Jana is married to Graham Hadley. Carter, the oldest grandson, is at Auburn on a full scholarship, graduated from Talladega High School as a Cole valedictorian. Our youngest grandson, Carson, is a sophomore at THC, is in the ROTC program, and is on the soccer team. Both have always been on the honor roll. I tell you what, Tom, that's quite impressive, and there's still more to come. We'll talk about. How did growing up on a farm?
Yep.
You never did plow with a mule?
No. Allis Chalmers tractor.
Allis Chalmers tractor. Was that before John Deere came out, or was?
Yeah, I think that was a tractor choice back then, I guess.
Allis Chalmers.
Yeah.
That was back in the old days.
Yeah.
You how did you? I know you went to Penn State. Your folks were raised up farmers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
My folks were raised up in the cotton mill, and I knew at an early age I did not want to spend my life in a cotton mill.
Same thing with farming.
Nothing wrong with cotton millers. It paid a good, made a wage, a good living, and we never went hungry. Never. Sometimes we didn't have new clothes to wear. We had patched clothes, But nowadays, those clothes is called designer jeans.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, it had holes in them.
Yeah.
But you saw that you wanted to not stay on the farm.
Yeah.
Went to college, ROTC.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go from there, getting involved in service. What made you want to go airborne? Was it because of the extra pay, or?
No, it just it was a challenge. And you talk about jumping out of a perfectly safe airplane. I did a total of about 23 jumps, and about first half of them, I call them night jumps because I'm kind of afraid of heights. And
They threw you out.
no, they didn't throw me out, but I had my eyes closed when I went out, so that's why I called them night jumps. But yeah, I decided just to go ahead and it was a challenge. Go ahead and do it.
Did you? I've often wondered. Of course, when I was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, we saw some of the paratroopers come in down there that got hurt in the jumps and so forth. But I cannot imagine anyone jumping out of a plane in the night into a war zone area or to enemy territory, not knowing if they're going to be on the ground with a machine gun shooting at you or a weapon shooting at you. Did you ever experience any of this kind of?
No. All my jumps were just during training, exercise, and everything. So I did make some night jumps. As a matter of fact, one night jump, I actually sprained my ankle during Ranger School. So,
Ranger School, for all these young folks and me that don't know what all Rangers do, eat snails and dirt daubers, and no. Look at this camera right here and share with them, first of all, how you got into the Ranger School and what do you do and how do you survive Ranger?
Well, I decided after I went through airborne school, what the heck, I might as well just go through Ranger School too. And that was a totally different experience. I can truthfully say, having been an instructor at both sides, as a student and as an instructor in Ranger School, it's probably the hardest school in the Army anyway. I don't know how it compares to SEAL school, but it is a tough school. Basically go about 56 to 60 days. If you're lucky, 1 hour of sleep a night, maybe one meal a day if you happen to get lucky. And,
is that snails or is it the
no,
dirt?
usually back then it was sea rations.
You hear all these guys and you never know where they tease you, how they live off of the land.
Mm-hmm.
You have to catch birds and clean them?
Some of the training exercises you actually had to, they just threw some live chickens out there and you had to do the thing with the live chickens and make a meal out of it.
Whatever. Yeah. I would never got past the first dead chicken. I'd have been out of Ranger School. But from Ranger School, of course, you served in a war zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vietnam.
A lot of folks don't want to get off too far, and I'll ask you, just let you share with the folks whatever you want to in that respect. It says here, the President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, July the 9th, 1918, takes pleasure in presenting the Distinguished Service Cross to First Lieutenant Infantry Thomas E. Lutchendorf. This is when you was presented the Distinguished Service Cross.
Yeah.
What for extraordinary heroism in connection with military operation involving conflict with an armed hostile force, as in Vietnam? How long was you in Vietnam?
A year.
You went through
67, 68. Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to this in just a second. How many overseas duties did you?
Well, I served in Korea for a year and then served in Germany for 3 years.
Where were you in Germany?
We started out in Stuttgart for a year and a half, and then we moved to Baumholder, which is a training area in Germany. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in Munich for 2 years.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we really enjoyed our time in Germany.
I enjoyed Germany.
Yeah.
It was a good place. What did you do to receive the Distinguished Service Cross?
Well, basically got out of a bad situation alive. To make a long story short, I was a Company XO back then. The platoon leader of the platoon I took over was off doing something else at the time, and our whole company was supposed to be airlifted into this landing zone on top of a pretty high mountain. I took the lead platoon in. We were able to get 3 helicopters in, one of the helicopters got hit trying to take off. It circled around back and crash landed on the landing zone. The VC had the landing zone surrounded. They had us outnumbered about 2-1. They were dug in, and it was just a matter of getting out of there alive. A couple people that served with me then, have thanked me, and of course I feel embarrassed about it, but they thanked me, said that, they don't think they would have been alive if I hadn't done what I did. But
yeah, I've got a document here that said one of the soldiers, Mike Winchester, wrote a book, and apparently he was able to find you after about 47 years. Mm-hmm. He wanted to thank you for what you did, and he goes and says if it had not been for you, he and none of the rest of them would have been alive. Never in his wildest did he ever think that he would be communicating with a man that saved all these guys' lives. So because of your quick thinking and heroism, we were able to get out of an absolutely impossible situation alive. I was fortunate. I served 6 years, and I was fortunate. I never was in combat. I was in Berlin buildup over there where it could have got bad, but fortunately it didn't get bad. Of course, nowadays we're fighting a different kind of war. Mm-hmm. You don't have so many feet on the ground as much as they used to back in these days. That's what you have. That's how you fought the war. Feet on the ground. On
the ground.
One-on-one.
Infantryman, that's what you did. You
don't know who's in the bush over across the hill from you. I can't imagine folks out there wondering who's over there with a rifle fixing to blow your brains out and shoot you. It has to be traumatic. I don't know if you ever adjust to it. You may accept it, but you don't really adjust to it. Is that unfair?
You're constantly on guard. The biggest thing is, and if you haven't been in the military, and you have, you've served in it.
Never been in a combat situation though.
It's teamwork, and that's why I'm a firm believer in teamwork, and it's looking out for your men. Your patriotism may get you there in the uniform, but when you're out there actually getting shot and everything else, it's your fellow soldiers. And that's, on that one particular time, that's what all I was concentrating on, is trying to get my men out of that situation, as many as I could out alive. So.
How many was was it platoon?
Well, it was a platoon, but because they shot down the one helicopter, what happened is we only were able to get 15 men on the ground, and then the people were on the helicopter pilot and his crew.
Now y'all were in the helicopter?
No, we had gotten off. It was taken off, and the enemy, they were in bunkers all around the landing zone. Was kind of a depression, so we were basically like fish in a shooting ball, in a shooting gallery. They took off, a couple other helicopters came in, dropped their people off, so we got a total of 15 on the ground. But that first helicopter circled back around because it was shot, it lost all its power. It didn't have any place to go other than crash. So it just came around, landed back on the landing zone, basically blocked it so nobody else could get in to help us.
When you go into a situation like this, you know the enemy is there. But was there any ways in those days that could tell you about where they was, or you just popped?
Well, actually, we didn't know they were there until we got on the ground, until we landed. And then once we landed, then they started shooting, and then it was too late because we were already off the helicopter and sitting there in front of them. So.
Were you surrounded or just in front of them?
What it was, the way the landing zone was, there was wooded areas on two sides, and they were dug in bunkers on those two wooded sides of the landing zone. The other sides, one of them was a sheer drop off, and the third side was they had it covered with punji stakes and stuff like that. So it's basically they L-shaped end of the bush, and we were in the middle.
You're lucky to come back.
I'm thankful that I did, and that I got as many men out of there as I could.
Well, you're not fortunate only to survive. You're fortunate to survive yourself, but the other men, according to this, were very fortunate that you were there. And you didn't tuck tail and run. You did what you had to do. Said that this was in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. That was in '67?
Yep, yeah. December 9th, 1967.
60 years ago.
Yep, just about.
Do you, and if I ask you something, and folks, I'm not shared with him what I'm going to ask him? I don't know what I'm going to ask him. You know how I'm on this program. I just, whatever crosses my mind, if I don't do it quick, it'll be gone. Used to didn't forget anything, now I can't remember anything. I make notes from time to time. But this has been 50 years ago, thereabout. Does it still bother you?
Yeah.
Is that an unfair question? I hear guys talking about how they have flashbacks and...
Not so much flashbacks as memories. The thing is, about 3 weeks before that, I had a platoon. Now, I had a platoon for about 5 months, and then I was promoted to Company XO, and that's what I was when I took this platoon into the Hilltop. But about 3 weeks earlier, the platoon I had been working with the whole time, we were landed basically in a similar situation, except instead of being surrounded by about 2-to-1 ratio, they had a reinforced company, and it was about a 5-to-1 ratio. And at that time, I lost 5 of my men that I had been serving with, like I said, for about 4 to 5 months. So that was tough, and then this was tough. But I think that first situation, because I had been through that helped me in the second situation. Both of them were really tough. And the only thing you're thinking about in a situation like that is, you know, keeping your team together, getting as many people out alive as you can.
Don't have any idea how many really is out there firing at you?
Well, we had a pretty good idea because the first time we were landing in totally middle of the open field, and they actually have some engineering drawings of the thing. They had bunkers. They probably had about 30 bunkers spread around that open field, and something like 100 and some men were in that first one. And then the second one.
And y'all were how many?
We were about 25 of us
people.
The first time. And then the second time, there were only about 15 of us that were able to get off the helicopters before they couldn't get any more in. And there were about 40 or 50 in bunkers and spread out throughout the woods.
Basically,
that second time.
Basically M1s, carbines, or what was it?
Well, we had M16s and
Okay.
M60 machine guns, and then the grenade launchers, and they had the AK-47s, and they had machine guns and stuff like that.
Even that far back, they had all these
Oh, yeah.
high-powered weapons.
Yeah.
I have much admiration for you and anyone else that's stood tall and tried to make sure that you do come back alive and also bring your buddies back. But we've got a lot of folks in our society now that won't even join the National Guard, much less join the military. Do you, and this is not a loaded question, but do we need to go back to the draft? And I didn't tell you I was going to ask you anything, so if I say something you don't want to talk about, just say, hey, we ain't going there.
Larry, I'm not really sure. I think our volunteer force is an extremely effective, strong volunteer force. My only concern is, and I wasn't expecting this question, so you caught me off guard, but my only concern is that back when I was there, when I first started serving, and probably for the first 8-10 years of my service, we had the draft. And we're getting draftees in, and people I served with in Vietnam, probably 60-70% were draftees.
They didn't want to be there to begin with.
They didn't really want to be, all of us had different reasons for being there, but basically I think all of us did it because, people could have run to Canada or whatever. I think people did it because they felt a sense of patriotism.
A lot of folks did tuck Canada.
Yeah, some did. Yeah. But I have great admiration for the people that serve nowadays because it is voluntary. Multiple tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, that's tough on people in the military nowadays. So
you're fighting a different kind of war.
Yeah, and it's a different type of war.
Nowadays, these folks over there, they don't, and I've said many times that religion is destroying our country. Folks kill you in the name of religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have no respect. If you're not what they are, then you're an infidel, and we just cut your head off.
Yeah, I think
They don't have any respect for their own life. They'll hook a bomb to themselves and go in, kids, women, and go into a community and blow the area, and you don't know who you're dealing with.
right, and that's tough to deal with. In Vietnam, of course, you didn't know who was the bad guy and the good guy.
Same way as in Korea, wasn't it? You couldn't tell South Korea from the North Korea.
Yeah, yeah. So it's tough, and I think anytime you use any ideology, whether it's religious or anything else, and use that as an excuse to hurt somebody else, hurt your fellow man, I think that's wrong. Yeah.
But we're seeing more and more of it.
Yeah, that's sad.
All over the country.
Sad.
They, you see where their different countries just goes in and just mows down half the country, half the area, and no respect, no care for the fellow man. And I don't know how we're going to deal with this.
I don't either. Larry.
So far, it's been there, but it looks like it's slowly becoming here.
Yeah.
Military's changed. Talking about volunteer, we will continue having folks who's willing to sacrifice their life to make everybody else safe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is patriotism slowly waning? Are we losing our rights slowly, inch by inch? Where are we going? What path are we going down?
I don't know. I think our core values are good. I think that we should, relook at what we are as a country. I believe. But I think our basic values are strong.
When I was in service, you went in. So you went in.
I went in '66 and I retired in '91.
Okay, you're younger than I am. You're just a baby compared.
Yeah.
I went in 59. I was 19 years old. And I remember when I got to Fort Jackson, raining. We're standing there with duffel bags and scared to death. And this guy comes out with a little stick, pool stick, about that long, been cut off. Screaming and hollering and cussing. We got him out of bed. He had to come out and stand in the rain to get us off the bus. And what are y'all doing here? And I thought it must be one of the generals. Come to find out he was a corporal. He was in charge of unloading the buses and getting the storms. But we went through some pretty rigid training in those days. You didn't talk back to the sergeant.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I don't know how much respect even our military has for their officers and so forth.
I think they've had to tone down some of the,
especially in the Marines.
Strictness. Yeah, Marines and the Army too. But I think there's still a good bit of discipline, and I think young people going into the military do learn discipline. And for a lot of people, that's good. I think some of our young people probably need it.
Do you? For a while, I understand there were those who had committed a crime, and the judges would give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll let you off the hook if you'll volunteer to go in service.
Yeah, we had some of those.
Do you?
Some of them were our best soldiers, actually.
Well, I think that is this the kind of person you want to serve with? Is considered a thug, a thief, or whatever in his community? Sometimes that might make the best soldier.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do, Larry. Like I said, when I was serving there for the first number of years, we had a lot of draftees, people that were given a choice like that and everything else. And, when you get out there, especially when you're getting shot at and everything, or shot, like I was shot, it's then the true measure of the person comes out. It doesn't matter where they came from, but what's really in their heart is what really comes out then, in my opinion.
Did you have the people on drugs as much in those days, or did they get addicted to drugs when they're overseas?
We had some, not the same type of drug situation as now. There was some marijuana and stuff like that. That was probably the worst type thing.
Would you do it again if you started back as a 17, 18-year-old? Would you go through what you've seen and knowing, if you could look back and say, here's where I've been, what I've done, would you do it again?
Larry?
That's a loaded question.
That's definitely a loaded question. But, do I want to get trapped on top of a hill and have to call airstrikes in, basically on top of ourselves, get shot, everything else? That wasn't a whole lot of fun, but everything that's taken place because of that, like meeting the best woman in the world, getting married, having the greatest daughter, greatest son-in-law, greatest grandsons. Yeah, I would do it over again. Knowing that I'm where I am right now, yes. Yeah, I would, yeah.
I see you on TV all the time. So many that was not as fortunate, and you got wounded. I'm not sure to what extent. I'm not asking. I'm not going to. But I was fortunate. I never got wounded or never got shot at. But you see on television all the time about the soldiers who come back with no legs, no limbs, no arms, eyesight gone and so forth and so on. You think, does this kill your desire to be in the military? Does this hamper our young people's desire? Or does this encourage them? I want to go in there and I want to take care of these folks that's done our people this way.
Yeah. I admire people who've been injured like that. You see stories of them and everything else, and they recover. Some of them even stay in with some really debilitating injuries. And they make, normal lives for themselves and everything. And I really admire people.
Well, you got to. You appreciate them sacrificing their life.
And of course, in Vietnam was a lot different because sometimes, like where we were when I got my DSC, they weren't able to get us out until about almost a full day later. They actually had to walk a company up from the bottom of the hill. It took them about 18 hours to get up to us. So they weren't able to evacuate people quite as fast. And the type of injuries were more gunshot wounds, booby traps, stuff like that, as opposed to these big IEDs and things that, blow up whole vehicles like they're running into now. So the injuries were a lot different.
Yeah.
And they're able to, with medicine the way it is right now, they're able to treat and save people that maybe in Vietnam, especially in earlier wars, weren't able to be saved. Yeah. So, so their lives are saved, and they're doing great things.
If you just tuned in, you've been watching Tom Lutchendorf, retired Lieutenant Colonel, a Distinguished Service Cross recipient, married to Miss Nancy, and I'm fixing to do something other I'll probably get in trouble for it. Miss Nancy, if you would walk right over here, I want everybody to see who Tom is married to, his beautiful wife. She's on our historical board in Talladega doing a super job. Just come right on across there. Just make yourself at home. We got about 15 or 20 seconds, maybe a little bit longer than that. She's probably going to kill me, folks. Yep. Come on over here. Put the rose between the thorns.
There you go.
Would you like to say anything at all? You can talk right into his mic there.
I would just like to say that Tom's always been an upstanding guy. Always been proud to be his wife.
Well, I'm proud to have them as our friends. I'm proud to be in Talladega, and we didn't tell you how he got here. We ain't gonna have time. But I'm glad y'all found you. You're from Talladega.
Yeah.
I was born here.
You're Ledbetter. Yeah. Okay. Good to have them in Talladega. They're serving on our boards in Talladega, very involved in our community. Got to go. Tune in next week for another edition of It's Talladega.